Hey everyone, welcome to today's video. Welcome to the Gamey Daddy channel. Today we're looking at Ghost of Tsushima. I hope you are enjoying your playthrough of this magnificent game. Today I wanted to share a quick set of tips to help you duel like a boss. Basically, a few tips that I've learned that has helped me complete boss battles or duels in the best possible way and receiving or achieving the best possible outcome. Now, these tips will apply to the hardest difficulty, but if you play on medium or easy, I can bet that you might be able to benefit from these as well. Now, number one is whenever you find yourself in a boss battle, always know and understand that the boss battle is going to be very quick. The moment it starts, it's going to end in a very short period of time, depending on the difficulty that you're playing. I'm assuming that you're watching this video if you're playing on hard difficulty, because as soon as it starts, these battles can take as little as 2 minutes for them to end. In fact, in some cases, they could take as little as maybe even 8 seconds, because if you don't do your job to counter, dodge, or even block attacks from enemy NPCs, they will melt you in a very short period of time.
There was no other way.
Now, boss fights in this game or duels are not defined by large pools of HP that the enemy NPCs have like in other games. So you have to be very quick, meticulous, and calculate every single move when you find yourself in a duel if you're playing in a high difficulty. One of the really cool things about this aspect of the game is it's actually well designed. Everything is set in the right place. The setting, the background, the environment, the sound effects, the music, and the soundtrack, it all clues you into everything that is a high stakes encounter, and is also quite done beautifully well. I mean, if you think about how you can see the way the environments are done and how you're dueling in different aspects, you can tell that there was a lot of thought put into these kinds of battles, and the development team was not interested in you spending 40 minutes in one boss fight. They were all interested, in my opinion, in you spending time mastering the combat or the encounter and the enemy that you were facing. This basically leads me into my second tip, which I would say, keep your distance. Now, you're not trying to run away from the enemy NPCs. You're not going to go anywhere. These things are usually set in an arena, but keeping your distance is supposed to be able to give you enough reaction time. If you notice the enemy NPC closing in on you, then you have to then watch for whatever it is that they're doing. But the distance basically helps you kind of gain ground and give yourself room behind you or beside you for you to be able to evade an attack or maybe even block the attack. So this is basically something you need to do. The distance is you studying the environment and studying the situation, which leads me to the third thing, which is you studying the pattern. Every of these enemy NPCs that you encounter in these battles have a pattern that they fight with. They don't just do specific moves to them. No. Yes, they have that, but they do have a pattern at which these moves usually come out. But the pattern could be random, but what the pattern is most likely going to do for you is that it will teach you how to respond to whatever moves they bring, because in some cases, you're actually able to counter these attacks that the enemy NPCs bring towards you, or the, moves that they actually try to use to harm you or hit you. Sometimes you can do a reversal. A reversal is basically when you use the force that they use to try to strike you to actually harm them. So you basically dodge, and as they move, they give themselves an opening and you can strike them maybe from the side or from behind. This is basically why you want to study what the enemy NPCs are doing. Some patterns that enemy NPCs use that I've seen is they use usually an unblockable strike or a heavy attack, and in some cases they'll use a flurry, which is basically close to sometimes 5 or 7 strikes, and you have to be on point to block these or anticipate them at every given time. And one thing they'll do is they'll mix it up. So in one instance, they'll probably use a single strike. A second instance, they'll use a 7-strike attack. And so you may not know which one's coming, so you want to make sure that you're paying attention to this pattern as you study it. And then my fourth tip is make sure that you're using the right stance. Now, stances are really good when you're fighting in combat and understanding your enemy types. The game has a series of them that you have to understand which enemy NPCs actually are, basically much more susceptible to the different stances that you use. This same thing applies in the duels. In fact, what's really shameful of me is in one of my duels, the game had to set a reminder notification or some kind of a tip saying, hey, use this particular stance against this kind of enemy NPC, which was a shame on me because I'd been playing the game all through and I knew that. But in the prior battle that I fought, I switched stances and forgot to switch back to the real stance that I needed to fight the enemy NPC in the boss context. And so the game had to remind me. So make sure that you have the right stance against the enemy NPC that you're fighting. Now, one thing that you can usually use to identify is they'll usually do that stance themselves because you're probably going to be fighting an enemy NPC that is, basically of your own fighting class. And if you meet another enemy NPC that fights with a different weapon class, you'll know exactly what stance that you have to use to fight them. And then finally, I just wanted to say, resist the urge to spam. Now, one thing about fighting games is every fighting game is so different. And for somebody like me who's played Batman games, the spamming kind of is exposed when you come to a game like Ghost of Tsushima. The only thing that I feel has saved me is a lot of hours in Mortal Kombat 11 that's kind of helped me with a little bit more precision and with the urge to just push buttons whenever I feel like I want to. So that's the only thing that's kind of helped me, and I can understand how you may think that every single time you hit the square button, it's a strike against your enemy, when in reality, that can leave you open to the enemy just demolishing you and decimating you. So whenever you find an opening to strike an enemy, strike them with precision and strike with restraint. This game is not your average fighting game. It is not Dark Soulsy. It is not, some game that you just have to spam your weapon over and over again. No, this is a game where you have to fight with sense and sensibility, and it really proves it to you. If you really want to test it out, I would encourage for you to up the difficulty whenever you find yourself in one of these duel encounters. Put the difficulty on hard and try to fight the enemy NPCs. Now, don't be afraid. You can always switch the difficulty if you fail, but at least try to play it on hard and see exactly what it is that I'm saying. And for those of you who are already playing it on hard, who have already mastered a lot of these concepts and even have a few more tips, I'd encourage for you to share in the comment section, because I know a lot of people might be wanting to, beat it on hard just to kind of get some enjoyment out of it. And then another, side note is you're actually going to need to master these fights because you're going to encounter them whenever you get to the portion of mythic tales in the game. Now, I'm not going to tell you what mythic tales are because that's probably going to bring a spoiler. So let's just keep it at that. And I hope you guys enjoy the game as you progress through Ghost of Tsushima and enjoy the open world and all the mechanics that the game has to bring. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Let me hear if you're enjoying the game or not. And I guess I'll see you guys hopefully in another video. Peace.